This is the straw Manikin, painted by Goya in 1791. It's one of the tapestry cartoons he was commissioned to paint for the palace of the Spanish king, Carlos IV. As such, it has all the traits of a domestic decorative work. It shows a group of girls amusing themselves in a vague, idyllic scenery. The composition is very stable, with a warm, almost rococo color palette. Still, there's one thing that oddly stands out: the faces. They are somehow disjointed, dissonant. At the same time individual, expressive, and estranged from the rest. The girl on the left seems moved, and is looking at the mannequin with shy compassion. The girl next to her seems energetic and entertained, while the girl on the right seems calm, holding the cloth with an air of decorum and responsibility. The girl closest to us looks bewildered and slightly taken aback, as if anticipating how best to catch the dummy. Finally, there's also the face of the mannequin, looking in our direction. While we observe the playing girls, the mannequin is inviting us to acknowledge him, to put ourselves into his place. Though the genre of the painting is meant to convey naivety, the expressions of the faces make it complex, unsettling. Almost 30 years later, Goya will return to this exact scene in a series of aquatint prints called the Follies. Titling the print Feminine Folly, Goya strips the picture of all the conventions of his early works. Gone is the idyllic landscape, the soft tones. We are left with a bare, amplified depiction of the initial alienation. The girl on the left looks both drowsy and conspirative, while the girl next to her is seductively watching us. The girl on the right seems resigned, comfortably slipping into anonymity, while the other one is strained by the common activity. We can't see the last girl's face as she kneels, revealing the image of the donkey and the man on the stretched out cloth. Instead of the stiff mannequin, they are swinging two oddly merged, contorted bodies into the air. In our perspective, they're a compound of faceless limbs, and it's impossible to say whether they're in fact dolls or something else entirely. The entire image gives off the impression of a grotesque allegory, perhaps of the female role or motherhood. We can't be sure. In any case, something terrible is happening, but the girls don't seem to be aware of it, nor do they acknowledge each other. On their faces, we can see that each one of them is immersed in their own world, taking part in a communal activity, but completely devoid of a feeling of community. I always felt that this is the heart of Goya's art, his ambiguous talent for depicting faces. Not the detailedness or the veracity of this depiction, but how strongly his faces convey the impression of a personality, the vulnerable idiosyncrasies of a face, both its humaneness and its inhumanity. The way Goya uses the face to show us the contradictions of personality itself, how it can display the emanation of internal honesty, but also the ugliness of an unchangeable caricature. How it can oscillate between naively moving and diabolically estranged, and how, in Goya's art, these two are often not so different. In this episode, we'll be going over Goya's famous works and seeing how his depiction of faces shapes their meaning. Carlos IV of Spain and his family is a painting Goya made in 1801, at the height of his fame and influence at the Spanish royal court. It's a perfect example of how Goya uses the depiction of faces to play with context and transgress the conventions of courtly painting. In order to understand this, let's take a look at a more typical royal family portrait. This is the family of Queen Victoria by Franz Xavier Winterhalter. Immediately we notice that the edges are firm and well defined. The color palette is bright and solid, with the domination of the traditional British red, white, and blue. The faces are depicted in a sort of a neat, beautified naturalism. While holding her arm around her eldest child, Queen Victoria is directly looking at us. She is kind and relaxed, but also strong and in control. Coming back to our initial work, it's astonishing how much this type of implicit flattery and propaganda is absent from Goya's portrait. The brushstrokes are layered and blurry. The painting is dominated by black and pale yellow. Carlos's skin looks flushed and chubby. His squinty, light blue eyes make him seem compliant and indecisive. He is suppressed from the center of the painting and shows no real desire to be in charge. We can't be sure in which direction he's looking, or if he wants to be there at all. Though the painting is titled after him, it's in fact Queen Maria Louisa that is center stage. Holding the infants with her plump arms, it's her who is staring us down, as if saying, "It is my duty to keep this together." Her aquiline nose indicates a sense of pride, while her buck teeth and double chin give her a crude, almost rural look. In Goya's vision, they are like a weak, congenial man and his vulgar, ambitious wife, dressed in royal attire. The king and queen's entourage is not given any more favorable treatment by Goya. Their two eldest sons, Fernando and Carlos, are presented on the extreme left, stiff and blandly staring towards the other side. The son's fiancée and the eldest daughter are not even paying attention to the viewer. The king's younger brother, Don Antonio Pascual, seems resentful and scheming, as if trying to understand with wide eyes how is it that a man like his brother was given the title of a king. While on the left, the king's sister, Maria Josefa, seems like a fiendish presence, perhaps not entirely aware of what she's taking part in. And behind them all, in the dim corner of his studio, stands Goya. By his discreet but intense gaze, we could infer that he's ashamed of the state of the royal family. Perhaps this is also why he is in the shadows. He is ashamed of himself, condemned to participate in their decrepit pageantry. But I believe there is another layer of meaning here. Isn't the very fact that Goya was free to present the royal family in this way a particular double-edged homage? As if saying, they might be banal or ugly, but it's certainly them. Here lies the complexity of Goya's portraiture. It focuses on the characteristic, the idiosyncratic, almost to the point of ridicule. But through that ridicule, it brings out the helpless, the naive in its subjects, opening them to our compassion. The members of Carlos's royal family impress us precisely through their failure to rise up to the dignity of their position. To be sure, here Goya engages in satire, but a piteous type of satire, spontaneously emerging from the discrepancy between the singularity of our existence and the generality of our social identity. Goya's Caprichos, a collection of 80 fantastical prints made between 1797 and 1798, provide us with further examples of his art. In the print number 3, entitled "Here Comes the Boogeyman," we can observe Goya's fondness for the uncanny at work. The supposed mother of the two children is kneeling in front of a cloaked man. At first glance, the logic of the composition seems easy to comprehend. The woman is sheltering the children from the concealed stranger. But what is odd is that the children have a different reaction to the man. The child on the left seems terrified, hurling itself into its mother's arms with raised eyebrows and wide open eyes. The other child also looks scared, but more in an angry, spiteful kind of way. Is this simply due to their different characters? Or is it because the children already have a defined attitude towards the man? Maybe he is all the more horrible because he is in fact not at all a stranger, This could be guessed from the woman's expression. Though the children are fleeing before the man, she is gazing at his stiff, cloaked figure with an expression of compliancy, even respect. What kind of a personality is he then? A beggar? A criminal? A priest? Is the woman well disposed towards him because she knows more or less than the children? Is she about to hand the children over to him? Is she under his control? Goya's eerie constellation of poses and faces opens up a grotesque kind of mystery without giving us any answers. The print number 42, under the name You Who Cannot, offers us a great example of how Goya's portraiture functions in the realm of social commentary. Two men are carrying two large donkeys on their backs. The moral is clear, but the psychology is a bit more dynamic. Our attention is first drawn to the donkeys' faces. They look jovial and almost dignified in the comfort of their position. We can feel their ease, their comical appreciation of their contentment, as if saying, "By God, what luck it is to be alive." Then our look anxiously drops to the two men. With his gaping mouth, the face of the further man gives us the impression of strain and suffering. However, his posture might imply that this is only because he is in a transitory state, because he has not completely bent over. The closer man, on the other hand, seems completely submitted. His face gives off a sense of a narcotic peace. He has completely gotten used to his slavery. Internally, he might even enjoy it. This is the process of gradual mortification that the men depict. Not wanting to look at them any further, our eyes again meet the central donkey, who reassuredly says to us, "Just a little longer, and we'll all be happy." The work number 74, entitled "Don't Scream, Stupid," exists in a similar context of authority and exploitation. However, as in the first image, we are left only to observe the attitudes and symbols, since there is no conclusive act. The cloaked man is soaring before a young woman. At first, his gently closed eyes and spread out arms could seem benevolent, but this is in sinister contrast with the pouncing posture of his body, accentuated by the sexual shape of the shadow beneath him. The gnome-like person behind him emphasizes the farcical, public nature of the scene. He is the cloaked man's companion, enjoying the situation, but not grasping the significance. As opposed to these two, we can't entirely be sure what to make of the woman's reaction. It's a complex posture of acquiescence and rejection. With raised eyebrows, she is smiling, but also leaning away from the two figures. She is reaching for the cloaked man, but we don't know whether to embrace or to halt him. The lines moving from her shoulder to the top of the scene, very like marionette strings, perhaps imply that she's under duress. Perhaps it is even her that has arranged the encounter. Again, there is no way to surely know, since each of the three actors is engaged in his own, closed experience of the situation. This is how Goya uses faces and postures to convey the nightmarish quality of the social reality. Not through the outright display of suffering, but through the gradual numbness of alienation. Goya's mastery of depicting the human face is particularly visible in his black paintings. The 14 works Goya painted on the walls of his house outside Madrid. This one is the famous Saturn devouring his son. The mythical background is clear. The supreme Greek god Kronos is eating his children so that they wouldn't one day dethrone him. But in Goya's version, the mythical tale is reinterpreted from a secular, human perspective. with fearful, wide-open eyes and flushed cheeks. There is nothing supernatural, godlike in Goya's Saturn. Nothing of the sensuality and ceremonial cruelty with which Rubens chose to depict this story. Goya's Saturn looks as if he's in panical regret, as if he's forced to act this way by some unclear internal need. With his smeared, robust body and disheveled gray hair, he is afraid of himself. Though there are no other actors in the painting, the psychological dynamic operates between the watcher and the watched. It is as if our gaze is intruding into the space of Saturn's mythical crime, and he returns our gaze as he swallows the arm of the bloody, headless corpse. We don't know if it's us who are looking to reveal his atrocity, or it's him that desires to show us his deed. Saturn's awareness intrigues us and draws us in. In his eyes, we see a particular kind of human terror, the terror of consciousness. It's the drama of civilization. The mythical beginning is a massacre. Authority is canonized violence. It is as if, in desperation, Saturn is telling us, order must be preserved. But what is order? Is the order simply us? The survival of the strong through the sacrifice of the weak? I believe this is what brings us close to the killing god. Just like him, we know what we're doing, and yet we can't stop. The second painting is known under the title Man Mocked by Two Women. In it, Goya engages in an artistic study of intimacy. First of all, it is hard to see what is actually happening between the male and female figures. The woman in the center is wearing a white shirt and headband, in contrast to her thick black hair and the ghost-like shadow over her eyes. With her crowded teeth and pale lips, she is sneeringly looking at the man's right hand. It seems as if something he's doing is amusing her. She's leaning in towards him, while keeping her head conspiratively close to her friend. The other woman doesn't show any sign of ridiculing him. With her sturdy profile and arched bangs, she too is paying attention to the male's right hand. The man, on his part, seems to be content. With a gaping mouth and a scruffy mustache, he seems to be smiling, moving slightly away from them. Is the man about to show them something? Is he trying to hide something? The mix of embarrassment and pleasure on his face could imply that he is masturbating. Or perhaps he is suffering from some kind of defect. Did the woman on the left bring her friend to see something that she already knows? Does the woman in the center simply want to humiliate the man? Or is she ironically attracted to his vulnerability? The entire scene gives the impression of a perverse warmth. It seems like the man is enjoying the mocking, like he regularly needs it. Is he perhaps mentally impaired? Are the two women just prostitutes wanting to pass the time? It is as if through their power play, Goya is trying to show us something about all human intimacy. This is the aspect of the painting that we instinctively understand. The fundamental link between closeness and mockery. Finally, let's take a look at one more of Goya's masterpieces, The Witch's Sabbath. Just like in the Boogeyman print, the main actor, the diabolical goat figure, is darkened and turned away from us. This, however, even more accentuates the grim outlines of his body. His winding horns, the edge of the book he's holding, his tamely folded hoofs. Judging by his bearded profile, the devilish creature is speaking to the seated crowd, like in some sort of a sermon. He is the center of attention, yet inaccessible to us. This dynamic means that we have to reconstruct him, by looking at the many faces of his followers. Here Goya's depiction oscillates widely between the individual and the anonymous host. We see the brown-skinned woman with tight, frizzy hair. Yet with her mouth wide open, she is anxiously looking to the right, not focusing on the goat figure. The old man on the left, wearing a hood and white cloth, is also not looking in the creature's direction. Though sitting in his proximity, he is doing something with his fingers, as if living out some mental compulsion. The woman on the right, covered almost completely with a black cloak, seems to be tending to her baby. This veiled figure is sitting next to the devilish creature and observing the crowd, as if her task is somehow to assist him. The fact that the most singled-out characters are not directly engaged with the central actor gives the scene a sense of allegorical generality. The diabolical preacher is so fundamental to their world that they no longer need to observe him. Behind them, the others are more directly watching the black goat. Some are doing so with curiosity, some with fear, some with affection. This is how the painting touches upon the psychology of the crowd. Do we get the impression of the gathered people understanding the demonic sermon? Or are they only reacting to the evil preacher as an inverted figure of authority? They depend on him by projecting onto him their own misery. This is perhaps why we can suppose that the diabolical creature is equally obscure to his disciples as he is to us. He has no special message to give them, no particular road to take them. The dark figure acts as the embodiment of their repressed need for self-destruction. He subjugates them by making them feel. Thanks for sticking with us. If you want to see more content on art and artists, feel free to let us know. Also consider liking and subscribing if you want to help us grow the channel and get early updates. You watch the things themselves, and we'll see you somewhere in the future.